Hi, boys and girls. We have in reading been learning how to research. Remember, research is to find information. So we're using nonfiction text because we've been learning how to read nonfiction. We're using that to do our research. And then we're going to take the research we find, all the notes that we have, and we are going to take those facts and put them into our own words and write an informational piece about some of these insects. So we've learned about ladybugs, ants, dragonflies, grasshoppers, and today we are going to learn about the bumblebee. What do you know? I want you to think right now. What schema do you have about bumblebees? What do you know about bumblebees? Maybe you're thinking of a time you've seen a bumblebee, or maybe you got stung before. What else do you know about bumblebees? And you can even use the photograph to help you think about what you know about bumblebees. So bumblebees are a type of insect, and if you remember about our insects, that means that it has 6 legs, 2 body parts. Uh-oh. Okay, so I have my nonfiction text here about bumblebees, and there are some important words that we want to learn about. So the first one is colonies. Say colonies. So up here, we read about colonies with ants, that ants live and work in colonies. Looks like bees might too. And colonies are just basically groups. They live in groups, big groups. And another word, so colonies means more than one. Colony means one. So notice that when we go from colony to colonies, that Y goes away and we add an IES. So don't let that trick you, okay? This is colony, talking about one colony. This is colonies, talking about multiple colonies or multiple groups. Okay, and next word is larva. And larva is kind of like babies. So it's not quite the egg. They've come out of the egg, but they're not pupus yet. They're not adults yet. Okay, so they're kind of in a weird in-between stage. They're not quite kids yet. So they're kind of like the babies. And then relative. So we have relatives, and this can mean more than one thing, but let's read the sentence to see what it might mean. Many people mistake the bumblebee for one of its relatives, the honeybee. So one of its relatives, that's like family. So you have a grandma and a grandpa, so you have your own little family that lives in your home. And then you have relatives that are also family, but they live maybe further away or they live in a different home. So relatives to the bumblebee are honeybees. So they're similar. They're both a type of bee, but they're a little different. So like thinking about your families. So I have my little family that lives here, and I'm similar to my mom and my dad and that family, but I'm now my own new little family. So we have bumblebees and honeybees. So you don't want to mistake those. Honeybees look similar, but they're not the same. And then we have the word aggressive. You say aggressive, and we learned about this word earlier too. It's like mean or ready to attack. So this is less aggressive. So I'm thinking that they're not as mean or they're not ready to attack. And then our last word is stinger. You say stinger? So we have the root word sting. So what do you think a stinger is? Sometimes when we add to the end of a word, it means someone who, or a person who, or a bee who. So you could think of this as or something that stings. So that at the end means something that, and then you hop back to the root word stings. Something that stings. So a stinger is something that stings. All right, this first time through, I just want you to listen and enjoy the interesting facts you learn about bumblebees. But you also might know a lot about bumblebees. So you can think about, oh, I knew that. You can think that too. And it could just be a reminder of things you already know. Bumblebee. Bumblebees are social insects. That means they're friendly. They like to hang out with other ones. They live and work in colonies, groups. Queen bees, worker bees, and drone bees all have a role in their colony. This is kind of reminding me of the ants that we learned about. They have worker ants. I'm having a connection there. The queen bee's job is to lay eggs. Drone bees are all males, which is like a boy, males, and help take care of the eggs. So drone bees are all males and help take care of the eggs. A worker bee, and that actually made me think of the daddy frogs that take care of the eggs. So the daddy bees take care of the eggs. A worker bee has the most duties. They collect pollen and nectar, clean the hive, and help take care of the larvae, which is kind of like the babies. So the worker bees have a lot to do. Many people mistake the bumblebee for one of its relatives, the honeybee. Bumblebees are larger than honeybees. They also have more fuzz on their body and are less aggressive. So bumblebees are larger than honeybees. They also have more fuzz on their body and are less aggressive. So if a bee's being mean, it's actually probably a honeybee, not a bumblebee. Bumblebees are nicer. Bumblebees have a stinger on the end of their abdomen. Remember, the abdomen was the lower part, which is different than humans' abdomens. The bumblebee is the most gentle of all bees. Oh, I did not know that. Interesting fact. They will only sting if they are in danger. So if they feel like they're in danger, then they'll sting. But if they don't, then they're going to leave you alone. So bumblebees are actually the nicest bee. All right, now we're going to research specific questions. So first I want to know, where does it live? And I don't remember it telling us that, but I'm going to look for that. I'm just going to skim, which skimming is like looking for keywords like live. I see live because I want to know where it lives. So I'm looking for keywords of where it might live. I'm reading a little faster when I skim. Bumblebee. Bumblebees are social insects. They live and work in colonies. Didn't tell me where. Queen bees, worker bees, drones off a roll. This tells me all about the duties of everyone, what they do. This tells me the difference between a bumblebee and a honeybee. And this tells me about stingers. So I did not find where it lives. So I'm going to have to use a different source or a different text to figure out where it lives, because that question did not get answered. My next question that I'm looking for is, what can it do? So what can a bumblebee do? They live and work in colonies. Worker bees, drone bees all have a role. So anything special they can do, because it can lay eggs, but they can all lay eggs. Oh, they can collect pollen and nectar. They actually collect it, which means like gather or to keep. So they collect pollen and nectar. They can clean the hive, and they can help take care of the larvae, which that's something else that's common. So I'm just going to pick the ones that I didn't read in the other texts. And anything else? Ooh, bumblebees have a stinger on the end of their abdomen. The bumblebee is the most gentle of all bees. They will only sting, so they can also sting. I didn't hear of the other ones that could sting, so I'm just going to underline sting. So they can collect pollen and nectar, they can clean the hive, and they can sting. I'm going to type collect pollen and nectar. And the reason why I'm putting these in here is so that you can use these to write your informational piece later on. So make sure you pay close attention to what these are, so when you go back to read it, it's easy for you. Collect pollen and nectar, clean the hive, and they can sting. Those were some things that seemed special to a bumblebee. What does it eat? And I did not hear that in here. And you might know, but I want to make sure that I find a fact from a text. They're social. This was about who they are, how they live. This was about their roles. This was about honeybee versus bumblebee. This section was about a stinger. It did not tell me what they ate, so I'm going to have to look that one up too. And any fun facts? Any fun facts that we found? And I actually thought it was a fun fact, which maybe you don't. We can find something else, but I thought it was a fun fact to learn that they are the most gentle of all bees. I thought that was interesting. And maybe that they have more fuzz than honeybees. I thought that was interesting too. So I'm going to go on here, move my picture, and I'm going to put in more fuzz than honeybees. And I'm going to put most gentle bee of all. It's the most gentle bee of all the bees. Most gentle bee of all the bees. I'll add that in just so that you remember. So that makes sense. Now, since I didn't find these, I'm actually just I'm gonna go on here and I'm going to type in where does a bumblebee live? Where does a right here, where does a bumblebee live? I'm gonna do a little extra research, and I've found a text that says, let's see, most bumblbees nest underground in holes made by larger animals, while others nest above ground in abandoned bird nests, grass tussocks, or cavities such as hollow logs or spaces beneath rocks. In gardens, they may also use compost piles. So it looks like they can live in a lot of different places. While some bees live in hives, a lot of queen bees will find a place to live underground. So let's add in here that they can live in hives, underground, or in holes. Maybe holes in logs or holes in the ground, wherever they can find a little spot to build their hive. So in hives, underground, and in holes. Now, what does it eat? I can actually go over here and I can do the same thing. I can type in, what does a bumblebee eat? And bumblebees harvest nectar. Oh, it did say that in here. They harvest nectar and pollen from flowering plants. So that's what they eat. So it said they collect it, but they don't just collect it. They collect it so that they can eat it. So I'm going to put, what does it eat? Pollen and nectar. All right, so today we researched the bumblebee, which means we just read informational text and found answers to our questions or found information to our questions. And pretty soon, so we have one insect left that we've already been learning about. And then we will start writing about our insects.